Flushing the soil with 3 gallons of distilled water saved this massive monstera from complete collapse in just 48 hours. I watched the drooping stems regain their turgor pressure as the roots finally breathed again, free from the suffocating mineral buildup that had turned the potting medium into a chemical trap. But the reason it was dying is the craziest part, involving a biological shutdown hidden in plain sight. You probably think summer means maximum growth, so you pump your plants full of nutrients, assuming the intense July light demands a constant intake of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. That is exactly backwards, because plants do not operate on a calendar, they operate on a thermostat. And by pushing food during a heat wave, you are actually triggering a chemical disaster that starts in the dark, hidden root zone. Take this gorgeous 5-foot-tall Monstera. It was thriving all spring, pushing out 2 massive fenestrated leaves every single month under the mild April sun. It sat in a bright corner of the living room, drinking up a gallon of water each week and showing off those iconic, deep green splits that make the Monstera deliciosa the undisputed king of the indoor jungle. Then July hit. In just 1 week, 4 giant lower leaves turned completely yellow and dropped off, leaving the plant looking like a skeleton of its former self. It happened so fast that I thought I had accidentally introduced a pathogen or perhaps a root rot fungus. But the soil felt perfectly aerated and the drainage was working exactly as it should have been. The owner panicked. They checked the soil moisture with a digital probe, searched for spider mites with a magnifying glass, and even measured the humidity with a hygrometer that read a steady 50%. Everything looked perfect, yet the plant was shedding foliage at a rate of 1 leaf every 36 hours, creating a pile of yellow detritus on the hardwood floor that signaled a deeper, more systemic failure. But they missed the invisible summer killer. The temperature inside the apartment had spiked to 88 degrees during a record-breaking heat wave, turning the living space into a tropical oven. While we humans enjoyed the warmth, the Monstera was suffering a metabolic crisis because it had transitioned from active, vigorous growth into a protective, physiological shutdown that left its root system vulnerable to the very fertilizer meant to help. Here is the mind-blowing truth about tropical plants. When temperatures cross 85 degrees, many houseplants literally go to sleep. This isn't a casual nap, but a sophisticated physiological response, where the plant closes its stomata to prevent water loss, effectively halting the transpiration stream that pulls nutrients from the soil up into the stems, leaving the roots stranded in a stagnant, toxic soup of unused minerals. It is a survival mechanism called heat dormancy. They stop absorbing water and stop taking in nutrients to conserve energy, focusing entirely on maintaining cellular integrity rather than expanding their leaf surface area. When a plant enters this state, the roots become inert, and any substance left in the pot becomes a concentrated salt deposit that can linger for weeks, waiting to wreak havoc on the plant's delicate vascular tissues. So when you pour in that standard dose of liquid plant food, you are essentially force-feeding a sleeping giant. It is like trying to serve a 5-course gourmet meal to someone who is fast asleep and trying to hold their breath, creating a situation where the unwanted nutrients build up in the soil, raising the osmotic pressure and making it even harder for the plant to hydrate. Since the roots are not drinking, those fertilizer salts just sit in the soil. Within 24 hours, they start burning the delicate root tips, turning them from healthy, white, and fleshy into brown, shriveled, and necrotic husks that can no longer support the plant. This chemical burn mimics the symptoms of drought, tricking the owner into adding even more water, which only compounds the damage and accelerates the rot. It is a super common mistake. You see the summer sun and assume your plant is hungry for a buffet, so you grab that bottle of liquid fertilizer and give it a heavy dose. We have been taught that light equals growth, but we forget that heat can negate that potential, turning our good intentions into a silent, slow-motion poisoning of the very greenery we are trying to nurture. But instead of fueling new growth, those trapped salts create a toxic environment. The plant burns massive amounts of energy surviving the chemical burn, diverting resources away from photosynthesis and into the repair of damaged root cells. This internal struggle manifests as a visible decline, where the plant desperately tries to shed its oldest leaves to reclaim nitrogen and mobile nutrients to save the vital, emerging growth at the crown. That is why the leaves turn yellow so incredibly fast. The plant is cannibalizing its oldest foliage to keep the main stem alive, pulling every last drop of moisture and energy out of the lower leaves. If you look closely, you can see the veins remain green for a few days while the surrounding tissue fades to a pale, sickly lemon yellow, a clear sign of systemic nutrient redistribution. If you do not catch this within 7 days, the root system completely collapses. But luckily, the fix is instant, provided you act with precision to leach those salts out before the necrosis spreads to the main root crown, which would effectively end the plant's ability to ever recover from this heat-induced trauma, leaving you with nothing but a pot of dead, woody, and useless organic material. First, you have to look for the telltale signs. Are the tips getting crispy brown halos while the rest of the leaf rapidly yellows? This specific pattern, often accompanied by a crusty white or yellow residue forming on the surface of the soil, is a dead giveaway that you have a salt toxicity issue that will not be resolved by simple watering or by moving the plant to a shadier location. That is fertilizer burn, not underwatering. Do not reach for the watering can just yet because you need a specific strategy to handle this crisis, or you might drown the remaining healthy roots. You are not looking to provide moisture right now. You are looking to perform a medical procedure on your plant's soil structure to restore the chemical balance before the root rot takes hold. You need to flush those toxic salts out of the pot immediately, and I mean a heavy, aggressive flush. You aren't just giving it a quick drink, you are trying to dissolve every single mineral crystal clinging to the perlite and peat, washing them deep down and out through the drainage holes so the soil returns to a neutral, clean state where the roots can actually begin to function again. Take your plant to the shower. Run room temperature water through the soil for at least 5 straight minutes. Ensure the water stream is gentle enough to avoid splashing soil everywhere but consistent enough to saturate the entire root ball, effectively pushing the concentrated salt solution out of the bottom of the pot and into the drain where it belongs, far away from your plant's sensitive, damaged root system. You want the water pouring out of the drainage holes to run completely clear. This washes away the excess nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium that accumulated during the heat wave. If you see the water coming out brown or murky, keep flushing until it runs as clear as tap water, ensuring that you have successfully removed the chemical burden that was preventing your Monstera from staying hydrated and healthy. After the flush, let it drain for 2 hours. Do not put it back in its decorative pot until it stops dripping completely. If you leave it sitting in a puddle of water, you will introduce secondary issues like anaerobic bacteria or root rot, which will finish the job the heat started. So patience during this drainage phase is essential to ensure the roots remain oxygenated and dry enough to recover. Then you just have to wait. It feels wrong doing absolutely nothing, but silence is exactly what it needs to heal. We often want to intervene with more fertilizer or a special supplement, but right now your plant is in a state of shock and needs time to recalibrate its metabolic processes without being bombarded by any more inputs, whether they are chemical, environmental, or even just physical movement. Which brings us to the ultimate golden rule of summer houseplant care. It changes everything you know about feeding. It is the realization that growth is a partnership between the plant and its environment, and when the environment turns hostile, the best thing you can do is stop trying to force the plant to grow, because survival is a full-time job that requires every ounce of the plant's available energy. If your indoor temperature stays above 80 degrees for more than 3 days, put the fertilizer bottle away. Store it in a cupboard where you won't be tempted to use it, and focus your attention on keeping the ambient temperature stable, perhaps by using a small fan to improve air circulation, or by moving the plant to a cooler, more stable room away from the harsh, direct afternoon sun. Wait for a cooler week, or wait until the evening when temps drop below 75 degrees before you even think about feeding. This temperature threshold is the sweet spot where the plant stops its heat-induced dormancy and resumes its normal, efficient nutrient uptake, allowing you to resume your feeding schedule with the confidence that the plant is actually ready, willing, and able to process those nutrients into new, vibrant foliage. I know it is hard. We all chase that explosive spring growth and want to keep the momentum going all year. It is easy to get caught up in the excitement of seeing a new leaf unfurl every few weeks. But gardening is a long game, and the best gardeners are the ones who know when to step back and let nature take its course, respecting the plant's natural rhythms. But forcing a plant to eat when it is sweating through a heat wave will only break its heart and yours. It is a heartbreaking experience to watch a magnificent specimen wither away because of a simple misunderstanding of plant biology. But by learning to read the signs of heat stress, you can prevent the heartbreak and ensure your plants stay green, healthy, and happy through even the hottest summer months. That massive Monstera? After the 3-gallon flush, it stopped dropping leaves entirely. The yellowing halted, the remaining stems regained their firmness, and the plant began the slow, steady process of rebuilding its root system. effectively turning the page on its heat-induced crisis and proving that with the right intervention, even a plant on the brink of collapse can bounce back stronger and more resilient than ever before. Within 14 days, it stabilized, and now it is finally pushing out one brand new healthy leaf. It is a beautiful, glossy, and perfectly fenestrated reminder that nature is incredibly forgiving if we just provide the right conditions and learn to listen to what our plants are telling us, whether they are thriving in the spring or simply trying to survive the heat of a long, difficult summer.